Hello, everybody. Welcome to your very favorite Bronze Age comic book podcast. I am your co-host, Mike L., and as always, I'm joined by...
Michael Dell of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
That's right, and this week it is my pick, and I decided to gift Mike Dell with a Marvel pick.
Yeah.
That's in the form of Machine Man. Now, are you familiar with Machine Man at all?
No, not at all. Like, I remember like seeing him in like Marvel Universe. You know, remember that?
Sure, well, of course. I still have him. Yep.
And I would see him occasionally, like, you know, here or there, but I never read any of his books or really had any concept of him. Basically, I always thought he looked like the Phantom from the daily comic strips, the Phantom.
Sure,
purple,
yeah. Purple,
except
yeah.
with arms and legs that could stretch, like Stilt Man, kind of.
Right.
Concept I had of him. Because he's a robot, Michael.
Yes, he is. He sure is.
It's a robot. Now, I guess, why were you picking this? Are you very familiar with the character? Or are you a big fan?
I strictly picked it because, number one, I own the series, and number two, it's drawn by, what's it called? Barry Windsor-Smith.
What's it called?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, two things. So you still own the series? Have you read it yet?
I did read it like 30 years ago. Yes. But it's one of those ones I was... Go ahead.
Yeah, because as we've established in the past, you often own a series without having read it. Then you read it, hate it, and sell it immediately.
This one, no. I kept it because I remember the story being decent, but it was the art that I kept it for sure.
Yeah, Barry Windsor-Smith is something special, right?
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
We'll get into him later. So yeah, Machine Man, the character here. Let's look. I wrote down some notes, Michael.
Awesome.
Do you happen to know where he made his first appearance?
I know it was in 2001: A Space Odyssey, right?
That is correct. 2001: A Space Odyssey, Volume 2, Number 8, 1977. And this is basically a series based off the old the movie, right?
Right.
2001: A Space Odyssey. Stanley Kubrick.
I love that movie. One of my favorites. Yep.
It is a great film. Yeah. So, back in that issue though, he was called Mr. Machine.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Do you prefer Mr. Machine or Machine Man?
Now that I've heard Mr. Machine, I kind of like Mr. Machine.
I think I kind of like Mr. Machine more too.
Right.
Yeah, he was created by Jack Kirby, and the character's origin is that the military was creating 51 experimental robots, like robot soldiers. And if you're scoring at home, this robot was part of the Z2P 45-9-X series of robots.
Everyone knows that?
Yeah. And so one of the scientists in charge of this program was a fellow named Dr. Abel Stack.
Okay.
And he had a theory that you needed to make robots, because he's, I guess in this futuristic society, which by the way is probably like, I don't know, 1984 or something at the time.
I think it's 90s, right? I think.
Oh yeah, not something.
Oh, wait a minute, Mike Dow. I believe it's 2001.
Oh, at the time in this robot. Oh, well, that would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, good thinking, Mike. But in this story we read today, didn't they say? They were talking about something else, I guess.
Yeah, late 90s. I think it was late 90s. But yeah, we'll figure it out later.
They were talking about a robot revolution or something, an anti-robot protest in the 90s, which is what I was thinking of. But all right. But yeah, this stuff probably all did take place in 2001. Hence the title, 2001: A Space Odyssey. But this Dr. Abel Stack, I guess the big issue at the time was humans and robots getting along. Humans hated robots, and he wanted to try and have peace between the robots and the humans. So his theory was that if you took a robot in and raised them like a child, they would be more human. So he snuck one of these robots, X-51. He snuck him home into his house, and he raised him as his child, and he called him Aaron.
Oh.
So technically Machine Man's name is Aaron Stack.
So now we got three names: Machine Man, Mr. Machine, and Aaron.
Mr. Aaron Stack Machine. Yeah, I still like
Mr. Machine better. And then also X-51, which is his fourth name.
Yeah, not to be confused with who's the Lady Wolverine?
X-23.
X-23, yeah.
Right.
It's very confusing. But anyway, so this doctor raised him as his own son. But these robots could be destroyed by remote control. So he had to try and get that explosive device out of his robot son. So he managed to do that, but he couldn't prevent the explosive from detonating. So he told his robot son, "Get out of here! Get out of here!" And his robot son ran away, and he blew up and died. So now Aaron Stack, the son of Dr. Abel Stack, wanted to make it his lifelong mission to ensure that robots and humans live together in peace.
Okay.
But of course, the military was out to get him because they wanted his robot to come back home, because he was their property. So that was the premise of the series that started in 1978. Jack Kirby spun it off of 2001. And I guess all that stuff happened in the limited series because he was just like a minor character, I guess, in 2001.
Okay.
I think. But yeah, so he got his own series in 1978 and it ran until 1981. It ran for 19 issues. And then that ended. And then volume 2 is what we are reading here today. And it was a 4-issue limited series. And this series is in 1984 and into January of 85. And this series also introduced Arno Stark. Do you know who Arno Stark is?
Iron Man 2 or 2020, right?
Yep, Iron Man 2020.
Very cool.
And then I guess Machine Man got a volume 3 in 1999, and that lasted for 12 issues.
Really?
But and I guess the reason why this robot became more like sentient, like a human, also not only just being raised as a child, but he was also exposed to one of the monoliths from 2001.
Okay. Now, I'm going to guess that when Marvel recounts his origin, they probably cut out all that stuff, right? Because they probably don't have the rights to it anymore.
I don't know, because from what I was reading about the 99 series, the one that lasted 12 issues, the final issue, the Celestials come down and get him. You know, them mystical celestial people?
Of course,
because the obelisks were theirs.
Really?
So they figured like they should do some. At least that's what I just read, like in the synopsis. So I don't know.
Okay.
So if the obelisk is still there, I guess they're still. That was in '99. So I don't know. And the creators of this issue that we'll be reading, like you mentioned, written by Tom DeFalco, breakdowns by Herb Trimpe, and then finishes by Barry Windsor-Smith.
Right. Right.
So for those unfamiliar, breakdowns, basically Herb Trimpe's doing the storytelling here. He's designing the panels, doing all the layouts. And then Barry Windsor-Smith comes in and finishes, puts in all the details, and does all the line work. So if you just look at it, you would think, oh, this was drawn by Barry Windsor-Smith, because it looks very much, it's Barry Windsor-Smith.
Yes.
But he didn't do any of the layouts.
Right. There's a couple times where I can totally see that it's Herb Trimpe layouts, but for the most part, yeah, it just looks like Barry Windsor-Smith art.
Was one of those instances when the big robot crashed through the wall?
I'd have to double check. I don't remember.
Yeah,
There's
I'll
a couple
highlight it when we go through it, but yeah. Because it definitely looked like a Herb Trimpe, like G.I. Joe kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so what else about Machine Man, Maiko? Anything else you want to mention?
Nothing. I don't know. I mean, I think he's a cool character. I mean, we could talk about this later, but his personality in this issue is not at all what I thought it would be.
Yeah, I'm with you there. We'll talk about that because it really was jarring. All right. So do you want to just get into the book here?
Yeah, let's do it. So first we got, so lately when we do Marvel Comics, we've been getting a lot of them with that Marvel Comics Group ribbon across the top. But right here, this is when I came in, this Marvel box here. This is my Marvel logo, I love it. Got the corner box here with the 4 faces of the cast of this book, which I'm assuming you'll talk about later, right?
Yeah, when you talk about your Marvel logo, you just mean like in the corner box, you get 4 character faces, and then there's just Marvel written in black.
Right. Yes. Because that actual Marvel font, it might have started with this box, and then it disappeared, and it came back, and now that's the official corporate Marvel logo, like that actual font now.
All right.
But it did change for a while.
And the corner box is orange background with the 4 human faces here. No Machine Man in the corner box.
Right.
Which is a little bit strange.
Yeah, we'll talk about them later, but there's a bald girl with like sort of a ponytail at the side growing out of the side of her head, I guess.
Yeah, let me go through. When you describe them, I'll give you their
Yeah.
names.
Okay, so yeah, there's the girl.
I want
What's
to
her name?
check to find her name real quick. I had the page open. You know
Okay.
what? I no longer have it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I know that the guy with the hat, is his name Swift? I think.
Oh, wait. I forgot. I got the page back again. The one guy's name is Swift.
Yeah.
That girl with the shaved head, I think, is called Slick.
Okay.
Or is she Swift? I gotta click each link to see. All right, Slick is the bald-headed dude with like the star face tattoo.
Like the Kiss makeup. Okay.
Yeah. Which Kiss guy had the star, Michael? I'm sure.
Well,
you know.
Paul Stanley, but
Yeah.
this is like half Paul Stanley and half I don't even know what.
Swift is the bald girl with the one like side ponytail.
Okay, that's Swift. Okay.
Because she's very athletic and nimble and jumps around like a monkey the whole time.
Right.
Then we have Hassel, which is another lady. She's got like a mullet, maybe, with cornrows. Or
Yeah, the blonde hair.
yeah,
Okay.
and she's kind of like a badass who like has guns and shoots everybody. And Slick
Okay.
is kind of like muscle too for the team, I guess you could say. And then finally we have Brain, who's the guy in the little cap,
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
and he's the brains of the operation.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. But
Huh.
these four humans though, they're known as the Midnight Wreckers.
Right. Right.
We're going to get into why they're called that when we get through the issue. The Midnight Wreckers. So once again, just to recap: Brain, Hassel, Slick, and Swift. How do you feel about those names, Michael?
They're not great, but I mean, we could talk about this later. But the one thing I got to give props to Tom DeFalco for is he was trying to make it like a science fiction book, not a superhero book. So that's kind of cool.
Yes. Yeah, he was definitely, again, they're writing this in 1984. He's envisioning what 2020 might look like. By the way, Michael, how weird is it that we're talking about a futuristic story in 2020 and it's the past?
Yeah, it is pretty freaky. Yep.
We're now past it. Good Lord. All right, but anyway, get back to the rest of the cover, Michael.
So yes, and this is ahead of its time, this cover, because we have a cool red border. At the top, we have #1 in a 4-issue limited series, which was the style of the day. Then we have
because remember we did the Vision Scarlet Witch. They didn't have that, and they didn't tell us it was a. They said it was a limited series, but they didn't say 1 and 4. So at least
okay.
going into this one, we know it's just 4 issues.
Right,
you know?
right.
So that was an improvement they made between Vision and Scarlet Witch and this.
But we have a red border around this book, which again was not really common at the time. And then we have a very cool logo. I love this logo. It kind of looks like, I don't know, it's sort of like, circuitry on a microchip, but not really. But that's what it's supposed to be, obviously. And it just looks awesome.
Well, yeah, it's a very stylized font with a big machine with the big M and E. And then between the M and the E and underneath the shin in machine, there's man, but it's kind of like a old school computer printout. The lines through it.
Good point. Yep.
So it's like one of the old, because again, this is 84. So think of the old printouts with the, remember it used to be, you'd have the strips of the little holes on the sides. You had to tear off the strips.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
It's kind of like that kind of a computer printout. So Machine Man.
Very cool. If they ever make a movie, they should use this exact logo. And sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and then say what's on the big cover, though, the big picture.
Well, yeah, and again, totally unlike anything of its day. It's just a close-up of Machine Man's faceplate, but it's not attached to his body. It's just all like wires and like circuitry coming out of the faceplate, and you can see like a little bit of machinery behind it, and it's kind of like on a big circuit board. And if you look at the other 4 covers, it kind of gradually becomes more, assembled or whatever. So again, a completely, in my opinion, ahead of its time design for 1984 Marvel. Very different from what else was going on at that time. So really cool.
Yeah, every cover in the series is a close-up of his faceplate like this. And like in issue 2, he's a little bit more assembled. Issue 3 is a little bit more assembled. And then issue 4, his whole head's complete.
Right. Like, and this is something that Alan Moore would do, or someone like that. So this is, I don't know, maybe this is influenced by European comics or something. I have no idea, but this is very cool, especially for the time.
But Barry Windsor-Smith, one of his trademarks is just being really detailed and intricate line work. And you see it here with all the circuitry and the wires. And this cover is reminiscent of one of my favorite books ever, Uncanny X-Men 205.
Oh, right. Yep.
That cover has Wolverine like in a machine, like all kind of things going on and stuff.
Yep.
And reminiscent of that.
Yeah, Barry Windsor-Smith did about, I don't know, 3 or 4 issues of X-Men, and they're all great. They all look incredible.
Yeah, we'll talk about him when we get to his history. But just a great cover. Fantastic cover.
Yes, really good. So then we get inside here, and we've got the little tagline, not the tagline, but a little intro here. Enter the terrifying world of the near future. Enter the world of Machine Man, titled He Lives Again. And basically we're introduced to this this factory called Banetronics Incorporated. And we read this narration of this robot it's almost like an Amazon warehouse. And it's going through, that's what I was thinking.
17 miles long, this warehouse.
Right. Awesome. And it's going through and it's scanning everything, scanning all these little boxes. And they give the name of the robot. It's, what is it? IU-104/E.
Yes, they're very good.
Right, yeah. And it's going through and scanning all the boxes, and it comes across one. It's just labeled Danger Priority Red, and on the other side it says 6. And the narration says that the robot can't read the box because it doesn't have like a code on it. It just has
a magnetic
text.
Strip. Doesn't have a magnetic strip.
Right.
This is 1984 again. DeFalco's writing this, and that's pretty good.
Forward thinking.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I can't read it, so it's obsolete. So it grabs the box and throws it into this onto itself, and it's almost like one of those forklift things, but not really. And it wheels it over to like this conveyor belt, drops it on the conveyor belt, and then it goes into like this, it just looks like a modern day factory, and it goes into this down this tunnel, and then it gets dropped into this almost like a flying garbage truck. The garbage truck takes it away and brings it to this Banetronics private property. And it's like a big garbage dump. It dumps it all out, and then it just lands. And then we see a hand come in to grab the box, and we're introduced to our supporting cast here, which we just introduced.
Yeah, the Midnight Wreckers. We get a big splash page of the Midnight Wreckers in this garbage dump. Slick, Swift, Hassel, and Brain. Right.
And they're just chilling out. They're what's his name? Brain is looking at this big box. It's like, I don't know. It's like 2 feet or 3 feet by 3 feet or something. And they open it up, and the first thing they pull out is Machine Man's faceplate. So they pull it out, and it's got it looks like phone cord coming through its eye and stuff. And then, of course, is this Swift? Swift has to show off her skills, so she does like a gymnastics flip in the air and lands on the ground. And they're all chatting it up here, and they're talking about this box. And then all of a sudden, they realize, someone's scanned them. Someone's coming to bust them because they're scavengers, like we said. So basically, these are kind of, I don't know, I guess you call them like a police force for Banetronics. And so there's like this ship with some humans on it, and it's got like an army of robots with them. And the robots are like marching along the ground with guns, laser guns, right? And they're like, activate the killer bots. The only good wreckers have already stopped breathing. Very cool. So it's almost like so it's cool. And again, this is amazing artwork. It's very science fiction-y, very detailed. And so basically they start shooting at each other. We get like a little Star Wars laser fight. And then, what's his name? Brain is using one of his little doohickeys. It's kind of like a grenade. He throws it at one of the robots, blows it up, and then what's the tough guy?
It's like real small. It almost looks like a spider tracer.
Right. It's tiny.
He throws it on a robot's bum, and it blows him up. Boom.
Blows him up. Badoom. And then what's the muscle guy's name again?
Slick.
Slick. He hits them with like this big pole. And
How
then,
much better, Michael, would this book be if Slick was actually Slick, the manager from the old WWF?
Oh, it'd be so awesome.
That would be amazing.
Yep. Oh, I can hear the music in my head right now. But anyway.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and then they've got an insult. Instead of saying idiot. Oh yeah, and by the way, we should say there's some slang here, like some futuristic slang. Like instead of saying idiot, they say vidiot. So whatever the tough guy. No, who's this guy now? This is not this.
Hassel's the girl with the guns.
Okay,
she's
so
gunning all the ribbits down.
The badass Hassel is now shooting them, and shoots one of the. Oh yeah, and she's worried that they're gonna unleash a C-28 battle bot on them. And so meanwhile, so they gather their stuff up, like, okay, let's get out of here, and then they fly off in this little, like, I don't know, hover ship thing.
They call them skids, I think, right? Or skippers, right?
Yeah, skippers, kind of like a ship, right? It's all like slang. So then the Banetronics guys, they find the box. So they're like, well, we got the box, so at least we can figure out what they stole. So then we cut back to the Banetronics Central headquarters, and we're introduced to a woman who's kind of like the head of it. What is her name? I don't even know. Madam
Sunset Bane.
Sunset Bane. So she scolds them all. She's like, I don't want excuses. Or, I want results. And she kicks them all out. Like, get out of here. Go figure out what's going on. So she's like looking in the mirror and she's like lamenting, the loss of her beauty. And she's got wrinkles and all this stuff. And then we see...
Yeah, well, we should say, like, when we first see her, like, her back's to the camera, and there's all these women working on her, like, beauticians and stuff.
Right.
And she looks kind of young, but, like, when you find out she's in her 70s.
Right.
Like, but then she takes her glasses off, and you see, like, her eyes are all baggy and stuff.
Right. And the thing is, I mean, Barry Windsor-Smith's a great artist, but... most of his characters tend to look pretty much the same, and so basically
that's the problem.
You have, you kind of have just like a standard-looking woman, but with big bags under her eyes, and that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
And then we see her talking to someone behind a curtain in the shadows. We don't know who it is, but we see a robot hand, right? Like just pushing the curtain out of the way, but we don't see a face, so we don't know who it is. And then she's like, that box. The one which was stolen contained a memento from my distant past. So that's kind of like a hint of what's to come, but we don't know what yet, right? So then we cut over to, it looks like, this is actually a futuristic McDonald's, which is kind of cool. We drive by like a futuristic McDonald's. And then in like one of the back alleys, what are they called? The Wreckers?
The Midnight Wreckers.
The Midnight Wreckers have got Machine Man, and they're kind of like piecing them all together. And Brain has got like most of them put together, but he's like working on like his chest plate, and he's like, I don't know if he's cleaning it off or whatever. But and then he said
he gave it a paint job too.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah, that's right. He changed the colors. So I guess that means because he was originally kind of like pink purple, but now he's red, right?
Yep.
So of course Swift has to do like a twirl in the air and land.
Yeah, she's always doing flips like a little monkey.
Right. So then Swift like kind of gives him like an electric jolt, and then basically that's it. Brings him back to life, right? And we see Machine Man's arm, and then he raises his hand, makes a fist, and now Machine Man's alive. He's like, "Where am I?"
Is he wiping a tear in that last?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah. And
he's like, "Where am I? How did I get here?" And again, at this point, because Barry Windsor-Smith's art is so, I don't want to say cold, but like when I look at Machine Man, I hear like a robotic computer voice, right?
Yeah.
But his characterization later especially betrays that voice in my head. It doesn't fit. So
it's very strange.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. But they're like, holy scrag, I knew it was capable of speech, but it sounds almost human. Who are you people? We were just about to ask you the same question. So then we get what we always get in a 1984 Marvel comic. We get a flashback, right?
Yeah, I think you need one here, though. Like, cause, and it works because, again, this first issue of a limited series, a lot of people don't know who Machine Man is, and the characters here don't know who he is either. So the exposition makes sense because he's telling the characters who need the information. So
right.
It works.
But I love the intro. Perhaps I should start at the beginning. And then he gives the intro, the origin, right? His origin is X-51, and he was created by, what's his name? Dr. Stack.
Yes.
And then we see this bottom panel on digital page 14. That is a pure Herb Trimpe layout. The way that Machine Man's got his hand in front of that guy's face.
Yeah.
That's pure Herb Trimpe. But anyway, and then he talks about how he met a woman, like a robot woman named Jocasta, a former member of the Avengers, which apparently took place in Marvel 2 in 193. So I can only assume that in that issue, it either takes place in our present or maybe the thing goes to the future. I have no idea.
See, that's where I get confused about the whole when the years and stuff happen, because he does have adventures then with like Hulk and
right. So he must go to the past, I assume.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah.
Maybe they just retconned the whole 2001 stuff. Like
Maybe,
said,
yeah.
Yeah.
And he kind of summarizes how along the way he made some enemies like Senator Miles Brickman and Madame Menace or Madame Menace.
Yes, and we learned that Madame Menace is actually Sunset Bane.
Right. Dun, dun, dun. He's like, yeah, I think her real name was Sunset Bane. And they're like, Sunset Bane? I hope you don't mean the Sunset Bane, which is a woman we've already met, right?
Yep.
And so then he's like, oh, he's got a pain. And then they're like, what's wrong with his brain? Which is what I ask whenever someone kind of like puts their hands on their head, right? And then meanwhile, the Banetronics guys are still tracking them down, right? And this time
they want their property back.
Right. They brought a C-28 Death Dealer with them.
Yeah.
And we should point out this is 1984, so this might have even been either right after Terminator or right before Terminator. So, there's some ideas floating around in the nether there. Some cool ideas.
In the ether.
In the ether, right.
Yeah.
And then we cut back to this like boarded up McDonald's. It's kind of cool. And then we see that Brain has got the back of Machine Man's head off and he's like twiddling around with all his circuitry and stuff. And then there's some exposition about, the timeline. Well, Banetronics began mass producing bots in the late 80s. And then...
yeah, see, I was right. So
yeah, you're right.
So, yeah, I guess the character in 2001 Space Odyssey may have been disconnected from the other character. But, like, then the obelisk was still a thing, so I don't know. It's confusing.
Right. I don't know, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was an anti-robot movement in 1996. And then it says here, the government ended the riots in 2001 when it began regulating the sale of bots. And it granted Banetronics a monopoly on the trade. And
so like our Machine Man guy's a very old robot. Like, right. From the initial run of like the 80s and stuff.
Right. So he's like 30 years old or so.
Yeah.
Or 40?
40,
30.
yeah.
40 years old, right. So then basically then all it looks like an alarm goes off. Like, something penetrated our outer security screens. We've got to... And then sure enough, it's the C-28 Death Dealer robot. Smashes through... Yeah, smashes through the wall.
Now that looks like a Herb Trimpe layout.
Yeah,
like
you could see... Yeah,
like,
definitely.
That kind of robot. Like, even the robot designs look like Herb Trimpe,
You're right. Yep. Smashes through. Oh, that again. That's a Herb Trimpe shooting his fingers. Foot.
I believe it's Trimpe. Didn't we decide it's Trimpe when we talked about
I think I met him, and I think it's Trimpe.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I don't know. I got to talk to him about this because I think he should be pronouncing it Trimpe.
I think he passed away. But anyway, I just Googled it, and according to tomorrows.com, it rhymes with shrimpy. So it is Trimpe.
All right, it's Trimpe, I guess. That seems weird, but all right. Trimpe, 1E,
yep.
Trimpe. All right.
Yep. So then we get a little shootout here. Fwam. So this robot is really arrogant. This robot, the C-28 thing, keeps bragging about how tough it is and how nothing can kill him, right? He's like,
but he shoots those things he shoots those little pellets out of his fingers because they're going to knock him out. Like he doesn't want to kill anybody at first. Even though he's a death dealer. He says, as long as you go along with us, we won't kill you. Here, I'm just going to knock you out with these little pellets. But, they want none of that. So.
Right. So yeah, and then so here's where things get weird with Machine Man. Well, they start to. So then Machine Man's like, you seem to have a very inflated opinion of yourself, fella. I don't know why you want these kids, but fate seems to have thrown me in their corner. You can't stop me. So then they start fighting, and they're kind of back and forth, and the C-28 shoots him. I think does he shoot him? Yeah, with like rocket things on the side of his thing of his waist. And then he's like, I can see that you don't subscribe to the concept of fair play. And then meanwhile, what's her name again?
Which one?
The woman who's shooting those two. Hassel. She's shooting like two of the robots, and then the Kiss guy is using like a big piece of machinery to block lasers. Oh yeah, and here's
let's have some respect. That is slick.
Okay.
Not just
respect,
the Kiss guy. That's
respect
slick.
for slick.
The Doctor style.
So this is pure Tom DeFalco dialogue. He's like, he's like, would you mind taking this from me? I'm all thumbs when it comes to heavy objects. And he throws this like gigantic TV-sized box at them. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And then Hassel, like, or no, sorry, Swift.
Swift.
Oh, I knew you'd I knew you'd keep track of these names. Good. So then
Mike,
Swift.
how do you feel about Swift? Like, again, a bald lady, an attractive bald lady, but then she just has a very long ponytail out of the left side of her head.
It's a weird thing, and I remember Rob Liefeld. I think he did that with some of his women in like the 90s, where they'd be bald, but like with a ponytail and like an eye patch. It was a really weird look.
Yeah, I gotta tell. I don't know if I'm a fan. Don't know if I'm a fan of it.
But that's actually, what's funny is, considering this is set in 2000, it's actually kind of accurate, because you do see
2020. It's set. 2020.
2020. Yeah, you do see girls with like shaved heads and like long hair on top, shaved on the side, and so Tom DeFalco, man, he knew what he was doing when he wrote this.
And they're often wearing like purple jumpsuits and doing all kinds of flips.
Right,
so
you're right.
It's crazy.
So meanwhile, so then we got Swift is doing her flips and jumping and kicking people, and then Brain, he's trying to use his brains, and so he knows the weakness, the weak spot of one of these robots, and so he goes up with like a hammer and he like nails something into like a certain spot on his chest, which like makes his head pop off, and he's like, "You'd think someone would correct a design flaw like that." So meanwhile,
one other thing I want to point out about Brain is he's the only one we get into his mind. He's the only one getting thought balloons.
Good point. Good point.
None of the other three get thought balloons at all. It's only Brain. So
okay, so he's
I'm
kind of
interested. Like, did you read the rest of the series?
No, but I'm going to.
Because I'm interested to see if like that remains consistent, and if it pays off, like Brain's the guy we really get close to over the next 3
if he's
issues.
the protagonist, right? Yeah. So anyway, now Machine Man is back to fighting C-28, and he's like, "I don't suppose you'd care to postpone this fight. Next century would be fine with me." And then C-28,
it's like Spider-Man,
right? This is 100, totally Spider-Man. And then the bad guy's like, "What kind of robot are you? Your clumsy attempts at humor sound almost human." And then Machine Man's like, "I'll take that as a compliment. I don't care how you take it." So then they're fighting back and forth, and then Machine Man does his Stilt Man trick that you like, right?
Yeah.
And then Machine Man like shoots off one of his fingers. Oh, no. He's like, my old friend Gears Garvin, obviously a Jack Kirby name, was like, even installed a modified 357 Magnum in my right hand, and he shoots like a bullet out of his finger. And then of course the C-28 has like a force field, so the bullets just bounce off of it. And then he like shoots out his hand. Again, it's like his hand just comes out like he just stretches out like a stilt man, but it's like a hand now. So it stilts out, whatever you want to call it, stretches out.
Yeah.
And then
telescopic arms.
Yes. And then the C-28 has these tentacles that come out with like these what do you call those? Like kind of like
little buzzsaws.
Yeah, buzzsaws, right. And they're like cutting his arm. And then he's like, "Go easy on the merchandise, pal. I don't know if I can get replacement parts." Again, Spider-Man dialogue, right?
Yeah.
And then he just punches him in the jaw, knocks him over.
Well, yeah, Death Dealer punches Machine Man.
Yeah, correct. Death Dealer punches him over. And then he's like, I intend to bathe you with a concentrated spray of acid, starting with your face. So shoots him with like this green acid. And then once again, "No, you may not think much of my face, but I've grown quite accustomed to it." Again, Spider-Man dialogue. And then again, the Death Dealer double punches him on the back of the head, and then Machine Man's like, he's like, C-28's like, "I will keep hammering at you until you have until you have the good sense to surrender." And Machine Man's like, "But that could take forever, and I've already made dinner plans." Wah, wah, wah. Spider-Man again, right? So then, so more fighting, more punching. And then, and so then Machine Man gets this brilliant idea. He's like, "You said earlier about being able to cope with any attack that the human mind could conceive. Well, I doubt any human would ever consider using his own body to complete an electrical circuit." And he basically electrocutes the Death Dealer, right?
Yeah, he puts his left hand into like an electrical board of wires, and then his right hand on the rivet, and fries him.
Fazoom, right. And then knocks him out. And so then the what are they called? The Night Wreckers? They're like, come on, let's get
Midnight
out.
Wreckers.
Yeah, the Midnight Wreckers. They're like,
Not
come
to
on.
be confused with Jim Cornette's tag team champions, the Midnight Express.
Right. I always mix those two up. They're like, let's get out of here. And he's like, I'm coming. And then and then he's cool because they're like, oh, I didn't know you could fly. He's like, I can't. I'm hitching a ride on your craft by negating my gravity and making myself weightless, which is a cool little thing. I like that.
Yeah.
So then Machine Man contemplates to himself. He's like, so what happens now? How do I fit into this new world? Do I want to? Can I trust these people? Are any of my old friends still alive? Questions. I have too many questions. And it's kind of like a Spider-Man thing, like contemplating, what he's going to do. And then we cut back to, what is her name? Madame Mask?
Well, she was Madame Menace. Here she's Sunset Bane. Like, she doesn't,
Right.
I guess she dropped the Madame Menace. Because really, it's tough to have a regular job and a normal life when you're called Madame Menace.
Right, you're right. Can't put that on your resume, right? So he's like, I can't believe it. He's back. He's really back. And then we hear a voice. Who is? An old enemy, a ghost from the past who has risen up from his terrible grave to haunt me. And then we see on the last panel, and you. And guess what? It's Joe Costa from the Avengers.
But it's Chubby Jocasta.
Yeah, completely different body.
Not Smoking Hot Jocasta.
Right.
So.
And then it says, and that's a Herb Trimpe side face. 100% Herb Trimpe. And then it says, next issue, Machine Man and the Midnight Wreckers begin their search for Sanctuary.
Yeah, so how do you think Machine Man's going to react when he sees Jocasta? It's like her face is still the same, but her body, ages,
He's going to be like,
rough.
Ooh.
Yeah, she put on some pounds.
We can still be friends. How about that? We'll just be friends.
So next issue, Machine Man. So there you go, Machine Man. Yeah, it was interesting because, again, Tom DeFalco, well, let's talk about the creators. And then
Sure.
we'll break it down from there. So this is the first time we've ever read anything by Tom DeFalco. He was born in 1950, Queens, New York.
Huh.
He began his comics career as an editorial assistant for Archie Comics.
Wow.
Where he developed the Archie Comics Digest series, which is still running today and is the company's most profitable series.
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So then he went on to write for the Archie and Scooby-Doo and Josie and the Pussycats.
Huh.
Then he moved to DC in the late 1970s. He worked on Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane stories for the Superman Family title.
Right.
Are you familiar with this Superman Family title, Michael?
Yes, I've got some issues in my comic boxes, and I've read many of them.
And he did some other stuff there at DC, nothing too notable, I don't think. And then he moved to Marvel in 1979, and he did issues 179 and 180 of the Avengers. And he did the final 5 issues of the Machine Man Volume 1.
Ah, cool.
So that's why he was still liking the Machine Man. He came back for this one. In 1981, he co-created Dazzler with John Romita Sr. and wrote issues 1 through 7.
Right, I knew that.
Dazzler. Then he was one of the key players in working with Hasbro to revitalize G.I. Joe, and he also had a hand in bringing Transformers along as well.
Whoa, really?
So look at that, Michael. You love Tom DeFalco now.
Yes, I do. I do now.
From 1984 to 1998, he did about 66 issues of Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes, I'm in the middle of reviewing them now. Yep.
He had like 2 significant runs. One was from issues 251 to 285. He didn't do all those issues, but that's the issues he did.
Yeah.
And I think during that run, he introduced the Rose, right?
Yes,
Or
yes.
Black Fox as well, maybe?
Yeah.
Silver Sable? Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Was that during that run? Yeah. And then he also introduced the black costume. He was the writer when the black costume came in.
That's right. Yep.
And then his later Spider-Man run was from 407 to 439, and those were all uninterrupted issues. And during that time, he was one of the writers of Maximum Carnage.
Yes.
And the Clone Saga.
Ooh, those are the ones I did not read.
He also had a long run on Thor from 1987 to 93, where he did 73 issues.
Huh. I read some of those. They're not great.
Hey, Michael, the other night I watched Thor Ragnarok again.
Oh, yeah? I love that movie.
That is very entertaining.
Yes, it's great.
It's very entertaining. He became Marvel's 10th editor-in-chief in 1987.
Forgot about that, yeah.
He held the position until 1994, making him the 4th longest tenure as editor-in-chief. Yeah, so he took over when Shooter left. Can you name the 3 editor-in-chiefs who had longer tenures than Tom DeFalco?
Well, Stan Lee,
Yep.
Joe Quesada,
Yep.
and Jim Shooter?
That is correct.
All
Yep.
right.
Look at you. That's why you're my comic book guy.
Yeah.
Mike, yeah. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, when he was editor-in-chief, Marvel went public, I guess?
Yes.
Started selling
In
stuff.
fact, I don't know anything about how corporations or companies work, but I believe it was his idea. And if it wouldn't have been for him, I think Marvel would have still been like a private company. And like, as you know, because we talked about this, Jim Lee and 2 other guys almost bought Marvel for like $62 million or something. And now Marvel's probably worth what? $2 billion or something? $4 billion?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
At least.
$4 billion.
Yeah, I guess the profits increased by like 500% under DeFalco.
Wow. Okay.
And I think Mark Grunwald, I believe, was the guy who said, who had a quote, I'm paraphrasing him, but he said, like, DeFalco came in, he did not have as strict of a, or has a, how do I want to put this, a definitive view of what Marvel Comics should be, unlike Jim Shooter, you know, who had that really
strict,
clear vision of what he wanted Marvel Comics to be.
Yeah.
And Grunwald said, at the time he gave the quote, he's like, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Okay.
Because under Shooter, like everything was, you know, Marvel's top of the game in terms of like as a publisher.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And because he kept a tight rein on everything.
Right.
And now DeFalco kind of let people do more stuff, and you know, may have been hit or miss at times, but either way, they made a lot of money. So
yes.
Then, while he was editor-in-chief, he was also the writer of Fantastic Four for a long run. From 91 to 96, he did 60 issues, from 356 to 416.
Yes. Not my favorite run.
Yeah, I don't really recall reading much DeFalco. I think I read some of his Spider-Man stuff.
Those were good, but his Fantastic Four, that's when like the Thing got like a silver helmet. You remember that?
No, I do not.
Yeah, it wasn't good stuff.
Silver? Why did he have a silver helmet?
I don't know. I mean, there's some cool stuff. Like he's the one that revealed that Alicia Masters was actually a Skrull. Like ever since the point where she married Johnny Storm, she was actually a Skrull. So it retconned the whole John Byrne thing.
Yeah, wow. But I'm still like, did Thing lose some of his rocks on his head or something?
No, I think he was just, I don't know, like he became like ashamed or something. And so, so he just started wearing a helmet to cover half of his face. Yeah.
After all these years as living as an orange rock creature, now I'm ashamed. You
Yeah.
know what will fix it? A metal helmet.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the deal was there.
All right.
I don't know.
Sorry, well, what about DeFalco's rating here in this book, Michael?
I think it's solid. I mean,
Well,
some of the, okay, let's put it this way. I like the narration at the beginning, you know, like deep within the Banetronic storage warehouse, a massive metal creature prowls the floors. That's all cool. But like we said, some of the dialogue from Machine Man doesn't fit. At least I don't think it fits.
yeah, I don't know. Did you ever read any of the Kirby Machine Man?
That's the thing, no. So I don't know what he's supposed to
neither
be
do I.
like.
So I'm guessing this is just the way he talks.
Maybe, yeah.
Which I think it's kind of cool because it's not the standard, you know, robot, no emotion kind of thing, because he is kind of human more than just a robot. So, but it is jarring when you read his dialogue. It's like, wait, what? This seems weird.
Yeah, like the thing is if you were to just cut out like 10% of the bad dialogue, what is left would be fine. It's like pretty standard. It's a standard plot, but Barry Windsor-Smith's art just makes it's just like when he did X-Men with Chris Claremont. It made it feel like you were reading like this fine literature because his art is so good, right?
Well, I don't know if this is top tier Smith either, by the way. There's a lot of good stuff, but there's also some questionable things. But
yeah.
I don't know how much of that is Trimpe doing the layouts.
Right.
So I'm guessing that played a part in it. But I mean, the art's really good, but it's not like 10 out of 10 Barry Windsor-Smith.
No,
you know,
but I'm just saying that it doesn't make it like. Here's the thing. For example, I love Sal Buscema, but when I'm reading a Sal Buscema comic, I know that it's just a kind of a an action superhero story kind of meant for kids. But when I look at this art, it makes it feel like I'm reading like an issue of Heavy Metal magazine. You know, it just looks a lot more serious, more for adults. And then you read some of the dialogue and you're like, what? This doesn't match, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of exposition in there too, and like a lot of slang. Now I give DeFalco credit because he's trying to do stuff. Again, he's writing this in 1984, and he's trying to come up with like futuristic slang and terms.
Right.
The term scanning was used a lot, almost like it was the equivalent of Smurf, like scan.
Right.
You scan in like all kind of contexts.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, all right. Well, it's. I get what he's doing. I don't know if so he deserves credit for attempting it. I don't know if it was executed like the best it could have been, but still, give him credit for trying, you know? Yeah, right. So that was cool. But yeah, if he could have just tightened up some of the dialogue a little bit. But the plot itself was fine. Like, that's a good way to get the story going and stuff.
Right.
Now, I don't know, do you think the Midnight Wreckers are really strong characters that you would like to read more about?
No.
I don't know.
Yeah. Not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, like...
I want more Machine Man, less Midnight Wreckers, right?
Right. And again, it's like usually when you have like a fantastic science fiction-y character, you try to ground it with characters like these guys, but they don't really work.
Yeah, but I still like the ingenuity and the creativity DeFalco is doing here to envision 2020, and the basic plot's good. So not terrible,
right?
But it could definitely be better. But you know, whatever.
Yeah,
right,
it's almost like the mood is good, the tone is good, but the actual writing is not good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fun. It's just, yeah, I don't know.
Well, see, because I was thinking, like, if this was adapted into a movie, you could take the exact plot, pretty much, and just change all the dialogue, and you'd be fine. Yeah.
Yes. And the dialogue's not horrible. It's not like we've done some really bad dialogue, Jim Shooter and other, so it's not that level bad, but it just could have been better. Could have been sharper.
Right.
All right, so Barry Windsor-Smith, born 1949 in London. And in 1968 and 69, when he was a 19 and 20-year-old lad, he was doing one-page pinups of Marvel characters for UK publications.
Awesome.
And this led him coming to New York to meet with Stan Lee.
Right.
I guess Stan Lee's assistant sent him a little note saying good job on those pinups or whatever. So that was enough to convince him, I'm flying to New York. And he flew to New York, and he met with Lee, and Lee hired him to draw X-Men 53 in 1969.
Wow.
And back then he was just going by Barry Smith. He added the Windsor later. That was his mother's maiden name, I guess. Okay. So he added Windsor-Smith. And that's a much cooler name, Barry Windsor-Smith.
Oh, yeah. It's more, it stands out more, right?
It's classy. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, he did that X-Men 53 in 1969, and then he did Daredevils 50 through 52 in 1969. Now, have you ever read any of those?
No, I haven't, actually.
I went back and I looked at them. I had read the Daredevils before, but I went back to just, remind myself. And yeah, you would not recognize his art at all. It's basically very rudimentary, cheap copy of Jack Kirby.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you would have no idea this is Barry Windsor-Smith.
Right.
His next big break, 1970, he got the gig drawing Conan the Barbarian issue 1.
Right.
And he would go on to do 21 of the first 24 issues of the series. And it was critically acclaimed, and everybody liked it. Did you read any early Conan?
Well, we reviewed it on Flea Market Fantasy.
No, we did not. We did not. We did What If, Thor vs. Conan.
What?
We did not do an actual Conan the Barbarian issue.
Okay, I guess I'm wrong. All right. But I did read number 1, because I bought like a Marvel, what's it called, True Believers reprint of number 1.
Yeah, because I have Conan the Barbarian on my list of books to maybe pick, because John Buscema then had a long run on it as well.
Right.
And that was like prime Buscema, like at his peak. So we might have to go back and do that. So then Windsor-Smith moved to U.S. permanently in 1971. He's got his work permit, so he moved to the States officially. And then in 1974, he focused on fine art. He left comics, and he created Gore Blimey Press, which was his own little company where he did limited edition prints of fantasy subjects.
Cool.
So Yeah, he's like a fine artist, this fellow.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And he is a fine artist, like he's great.
Yeah. He returned to mainstream comics in 1983 with 2 stories in Marvel's Epic Illustrated issue 16. Then in 1984, he did a double-sized Storm story in X-Men 186.
Right. What was it called? Life Death.
Life Death, a love story. And it focused on Storm and Forge.
Right.
Because for those who don't remember, Forge was the mutant who could develop all kinds of tech, right? And he developed a weapon that took away Storm's powers.
Right. I forgot that he did that.
Yeah, like he didn't do it, right? Like, but he designed the weapon that did it.
Ah, okay.
I think, if I'm remembering properly, yeah. So that was 1984, and then once a year for the next 3 years, he would come back to X-Men, and he did issue 198, which was Life Death Part 2. Again, another Storm story. Then 205, the one I mentioned earlier about Wolverine fighting Lady Deathstrike.
Yep.
I love that so much. It's so good. And then 214, which I believe was Malice and the Dazzler, when Malice took control of the Dazzler for a little bit. The Marauder, Malice, remember?
Okay.
And then that was the last of the X-Men books he did. But he did this Machine Man limited series also in 1984. And he did the finishes for issues 1 through 3. And then issue 4, he did the layouts, finishes, colors, and everything.
Interesting. Okay.
So that would be cool to like compare the art in 4 to the other ones to see if you could tell the difference. I'm guessing you'll see a difference.
Sure.
Without the Trimpe layouts. What else? In 1991, he did a Weapon X storyline in Marvel Comics Presents.
Oh, yes. Which revealed his origin.
72 to 84. Yeah, so whenever you see those old Weapon X drawings of like Wolverine with the helmet on his head and the wires.
Yeah, good
Barry
stuff.
Windsor-Smith. Then in 1992, he went to Valiant, and he was a big prominent artist for Valiant that first year. He did Exo Mano War issue 1.
Yep.
Archer and Armstrong, he did 10 of the first 12 issues of that.
Yep.
But he's probably most famous for Solar, Man of the Atom, issues 1 through 10.
I forgot about that, right.
And he also did an issue or 2 of Eternal Warrior and Unity.
Right, Unity, absolutely.
But yeah, Windsor-Smith, he didn't have any other extended runs on anything really besides the Valiant stuff.
No,
his thing was he would come in and he would do like 1 issue for different titles. It was like a special event. He would come in and do like 1 issue a year for a title or something. It's Barry Windsor-Smith. Like he did Daredevil, Excalibur, but he never a regular, just a guest penciler. Right. So, any other Barry Windsor-Smith memories, Michael?
Yes, he did the covers for Miracle Man book 4 by Neil Gaiman. So after Alan Moore left Miracle Man, Neil Gaiman took over, and his 2 stories were called The Golden Age and the Silver Age. And Barry Windsor-Smith did the covers for, I think, all of them. And again, they're amazing. If you just get a chance to look them up, they're great. Yeah,
this dude's a legit artist. And like the coolest thing I think you can say about a penciler in comic books is that if you see one panel, you know who it is. You can just tell by their style.
Yep.
You know, and Barry Windsor-Smith, you definitely always recognize him. Right. He does have his like, I guess you could say drawbacks, and like you mentioned earlier, like a lot of times his women all look the same. Or,
right.
The faces can all, because he has this thing where he'll draw the eyes little and kind of spaced far apart.
Yeah, you could say that. Well,
but
also
it's consistent,
right?
And it works. It's his style, so whatever, you know?
Yeah, and it's just like, again, just like even Kirby, all of his people look roughly the same. With Barry Windsor-Smith, it's not like you're getting a lot of body language or a lot of expression. Like I said earlier, the characters are kind of cold. They're kind of, they almost looks like you're looking at statues, right?
Yeah, I could say that.
Yeah, but it just looks amazing. It just, like, again, it doesn't look like an American comic. It looks more like a European comic.
He does just really intricate line work.
Right.
And
yep.
Yeah, and all his characters, they kind of look sinewy and like almost like faces are drawn like haggard, like, I don't know, almost exhausted and dehydrated.
Yeah, gaunt. Right.
But it works. Totally. It's a very cool style. And yeah, he's one of my favorite artists just because he's so distinctive, you know?
Yep,
So,
me too, absolutely.
all right, there you go, Barry Windsor-Smith. So yeah, the art here, like I said, it's not top tier Windsor-Smith because the Trimpe layouts probably play a role in that.
Right.
But there still are enough good panels here where you're like, oh, this is special. You know, this is really good stuff. Yeah. So, I don't know. What else? Anything else you'd like to say about these creators of the book?
Not really. I don't know. I mean, I definitely am going to, finish this series, and I don't know. I mean, it's a cool character. I think he's worth bringing back. I'm not sure if he's around right now, but he's, Machine Man's definitely cool. So. Well,
I guess the last volume they did, he didn't look like this. He looked a little different.
Right.
And I don't know if they even changed the story, but I guess the explanation was he was updated with like Sentinel technology.
Yeah, see, I don't like that. Leave it alone,
But yeah, I don't know. I don't like the voice they give him in this book.
No, not at all. Nope.
So it really makes me not want to read anymore.
Yeah, so, I know what you're saying.
But I might go check out issue 4 just to see what Barry Smith does all on his own,
Well, I'm definitely going to finish rereading these, and then I'll sell them. But anyway. But no, yeah, they're definitely solid, though. I think it's solid anyway.
Maybe I'll go back and look at some of the Kirby.
Yeah, there you go. Start with 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Mr. Machine.
Yep.
Hey, I'm flipping through issue 4 at the moment, and the art is definitely upgraded.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. How about that? I'm digging it. All right. So, Machine Man, 1 out of 10, Micah. What do you give it?
Woo! I will give it a 7.5 because the art is obviously so good. Even though it's not his, Barry Windsor-Smith's best, it's still a cut above everything else. The story's not great, but it's okay. So 7.5.
Yeah, I'll go 7 just out of respect for Barry Windsor-Smith as well.
Sure, yeah.
Like if it's another artist, it's probably a 5 or 6, but we'll go.
Exactly. Right. Like Herb Trimpe is good, but he's not enough to make me want to buy it, No.
But yeah, it's Barry Windsor-Smith. All right, so Michael, next week on the big show.
Yes.
I believe we were doing, because I forgot to make a pick before we started recording, and Michael had to remind me. I believe we're doing Miss Marvel #2 from 1977.
Woo! All right.
Correct.
Sounds good to me.
Excuse me, I'm struggling here. I wanted to get a Miss Marvel book in here at some point, because I actually just watched the Captain Marvel movie the other day.
Right. So, we'll talk about that next week, right?
Yeah, and I think the creators here are, I can't remember the writer now, but the John B.
Jerry
Seema is
Jerry
the
Conway?
That's right, Jerry Conway. Conway. There you go. So Miss Marvel #2.
All right, looking forward to it. I just read this entire series last year.
Oh, wow.
Anyway,
because of the movie? Like you?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of, get caught up on stuff.
All right.
But anyway, and I'll never read them again. Okay, and so now, if you want to listen to more episodes of Flea Market Fantasy, we're available on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, under Comic Book Syndicate. We're also on the Comic Book Syndicate Twitter page, Facebook, and the Comic Book Syndicate website. Every week we review a different Bronze Age comic. 1 week I pick, the next week Mike Dell picks. So until next Tuesday, disperse!